Hi everyone, Tim Kittrow, and here to bring home the bacon are Big Rye and the Fat Guy. Boom shakalaka!
Let's be honest, I'm going to have to warm up to get into anything funny. What's up, YouTube? It's Big Rye coming with the NFL picks against the spread for week one of the 2021-2022 NFL season. Fat Guy, last year is our first year below 500. It was bound to happen eventually. We're going into our fifth year. Still positive, though, for our YouTube careers at 51.9%. Pretty damn nice. Let's just jump straight into the games. I'm not even going to let you get a word out. We're going to start off with the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers, who are 7.5-point favorites at home. 57% of early bettors are on the Bucs to win by 7.5 or more. Who you got?
Well, I think we know where we're going with this one. But first of all, there was a little upstaging there that was just right out of the chute. Doesn't give me a chance to even get a word in edgewise. That being said, we know who the star is and who's going to be carrying this video. So I'll be taking the Dallas Cowboys. Why 7.5? Great number, crossing over the key number of 7. Now this is when we talk about middling plays, which are the mother of all plays. You could have got the Bucs at -6.5 at some point, and Dallas at 7.5. I mean, can you really think of a better number other than 3 to land on 7? It's fantastic. Of course, it's diminished a little bit with the moved pat kicking line that's the last couple years. All of that is a little bit long-winded, but 7 points would have been a really nice spot for a middling play. I do like Dallas, not because I like Dallas, but because I think lines are going to be inflated for the Bucs. That you can't think about the public sentiment of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're a really good team, no doubt about it. But don't you think they're going to be added just a couple percentage points here and there just by the public's bias of them? They have Tom Brady. They won the Super Bowl. All the storylines, all the narratives are Buck positive. They brought back all of their starters. That's one of those lines that's, yeah, it's positive, but the line is effective negatively against the Bucs. I mean, but then we've seen this phenomenon before, and I've lost money hand over fist. I mean, same with you, Big Rye, betting on the Patriots when we think there's no way these lines are accurate, right? And then, they're batting at 60%. So, who's got egg on their face? I'm still going to ride the ship. NFL season isn't college basketball. It's got a low sample size. So I'm going to be taking the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to be taking the 7.5 points. And I like this one. It's a nice Thursday nighter to start it off. I'm not looking for a Cowboys win. Can we just cover, please?
On to the Sunday slate of games. Arizona Cardinals travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans, who are 3-point favorites at home. 68% of early bettors are on the Titans, as well as 68% of the money. Fat Guy, who you got?
Wow. These are one of the ones where I don't think there's a winner. And you can't say like, oh, how is that possible? I think if you simulate this game a million times and you had to put up -110 juice on this, I think you're losing. I think you're losing on both sides. I think this is a complete even bet. We're going to take the Cardinals just because, when in doubt, take the points. But this is a gun to my head choice. I don't see any value on either side. I think the book's got it right here, 3. Maybe I'd be curious what a prop would be for a exact score of Titans by 3. I'd be interested to see what that is. See if it lines up with a push frequency. Push frequency is how long the score lands on a particular number. That's something that is kind of important here if you're actually trying to make a go of it in this climate. We are doing a more of a traditional video this time, but you're going to see some more math concepts kind of get massaged throughout the season here. We want to beat the closing line. This is a little bit weird because the market is about as old for an NFL game as you can get, right? Because some of these lines have been months old, correct, Big Rye?
Hell yeah, and Fat Guy with a sweet Robert Kraft reference.
All right, so we're going to take the points of the Arizona Cardinals on a chalk game.
Next up, Seattle travels to Indy to take on the Colts, 2.5-point favorites at home. 26% of early bettors are on the Indianapolis Colts. Fat Guy, who you got?
This might be sharp action because I think there could be asymmetry of information considering the doubtful nature of the Colts' key starting players, more or less. Wentz with a COVID. I'm not exactly COVID protocol, let's call it, and Quentin Nelson with a foot injury. So I'm kind of curious as to, how that's going to affect the play. Could anyone potentially be out? This is a total no bet for me just because of uncertainty, unless of course I had asymmetry of information, which I'm curious how they get, because like in the old days, all you had to do was know a guy, you know what I mean? And you could phone them and they'd be days behind, if not a week, right? People wouldn't even know. Now everything moves so lightning fast. I'm curious how you could scrape information. That might be something in the comments section if someone was in the know, or Instagram, social media. Maybe that tells more than I actually think. Maybe that's a possibility. It's an onion to peel, a turn to stone over, stone to turn over. To reverse that. That being said, it is the contest. I do have a gun to my head. We aren't beating the juice, but we are ahead of 50-50 somehow. So gun to my head, I'm going to be taking the Colts, and I hope they have a good season. I like their coach, and I'm a little bit bullish on let's say Colts futures. Let's say so. Colts -2.5.
An interesting tidbit to add on to this: despite only having 26% of bets against the spread on the Colts, 39% of the money, which signifies to us that the sharp bettors who are probably betting more money typically would be
more
on
than likely
the Colts side. There is assumptions there, but it is a educated guess. Next up, we are going to take a look at the LA Chargers traveling to Washington to take on the football team. Football team is 1-point underdogs at home. 43% of early bettors are on Washington. Fat guy, who you got?
This is another game where I feel that like this is just right. I think this is like a pick 'em realistically. So I'm going to be taking, because we like them. We like them. This is a biased pick. We like the Washington football team. We like strong defense, Big Ryan and I. We like boring offense. Although Fitzpatrick adds a high variance nature. So I kind of like the going forward. I like the football team like betting the money line as big dogs rather than to cover, because you're going to get a high variance result with a risk-taking quarterback. And I think that lends itself to better results in terms of long-term dogs or long shot dogs, because of, like the probabilities I don't think are linear, right? They're not going to line up exactly when because you're either going to win slightly against a good team or you're going to crash and burn. Of course, this isn't the case. This is a pick 'em, but I'm just giving you an example of my outlook on the I might have said Redskins. It happens the football team going forward. So and we're going to be taking them, but this is purely biased because we do like the team and how it's built, but they're against the pretty high up in the MVP odds, Justin Herbert. So I want to see how both teams perform. So this is more of a fan game for me. A little bit chalk here on the line, but a gun to my head, I have to take him. So let's go football team in the point.
And Fat Guy stole my thunder here because I was going to bring up the Justin Herbert MVP odds, which is just unreal. I'm looking at Pinnacle Sports. Patrick Mahomes is the obvious favorite. There's only two people other than Patrick Mahomes in front of Justin Herbert, and that's Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. So Justin Herbert... Sorry, Aaron Rodgers. Justin Herbert is fourth right now in MVP odds, which is just crazy.
I'm so interested.
And like, I'm just going to list off the names around him that he's in front of. He's in front of Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson. To think that Justin Herbert has made it.
He's ahead of guys that actually won it.
Exactly. It's very confusing to me, but something that I'm really looking forward to watching him play this year.
I want to see.
It just judging off of last year, he had a great year, but not an MVP candidate year. So it'll be interesting to see. We've gone long here. On to the Jacksonville Houston game. Houston 2.5-point underdogs at home. 37% of bettors are on the Texans. Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, we're going to be taking the ugliest of ugly teams, the Houston Texans. I feel like we're going to have to take them almost every week until they get a decent win, and then that might sway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is more in terms of expectation. News can't be worse for the Houston Texans, and to give you some, I guess, survivorship bias. Last year, think of a team that had the worst news, a football team, and me and Big Ryan loved them, and it happened to work out. They did win the division at 7-9. That's not the greatest record, but they did exceed expectations, and they were decent. They might have given Tampa Bay the best run of any team in the playoffs too, with the backup quarterback, no less. So bad news is good news, and I'm not saying Houston's good. I still think they're the worst team in the league. between them and Detroit, and they're really bad. I think they're like a tier down from everyone else. But the question is, are they a little bit better than everyone thinks they are? And that's it. Then you've created value, right? The over-under for them is 4.5. So they're slated to win 3 or 4 games more than likely, which is really pathetic in a 17-game season, reminiscent of Hugh Jackson's Browns. But that being said, there's got to be some value on them, considering all the negativity for most week to week. And oddly enough, I'm going to be most likely betting wagers on them after really brutal losses too. So I'm almost hoping that I could put a small wager down on the Texans here. They get destroyed by Jacksonville, and then that creates a value the next week, which is possible. But again, I don't love this wager too much. I'd like to get 3. I really, really would. But Jacksonville, I mean, a lot of questions that haven't been answered, considering new coaching staff, new quarterback. I'm going to take the Texans. I'm going to take the points. This is probably a bet for me in real life, but I really want 3, so we're going to have to see going forward. Texans and the points in a really, really 5-star entertainment game in the ugly way.
This game is going to be entertaining because there is so much uncertainty between these two teams, and I find that entertaining. And I believe that this game did open at 3, so it's interesting that line's actually come down, which it points towards the Houston Texans maybe having a little more advantage than people originally thought.
To jump in though, I'm not going to bet the Texans at 3 a month and a half ago and tie up money on the Texans. Just not going to happen. So that's the trade-off, right?
On to the New York Jets, Carolina Panthers game. Panthers 5-point favorites at home. 65% of early bettors are on the Carolina Panthers. Fat guy, who you got?
I'm going to take the New York Jets. I kind of like the Panthers. We do have they're one of our darlings, I would say, the Carolina Panthers from last year. They didn't quite get the results, but I felt like some of the coaching decisions and attempts were the type of stuff Big Ryan liked to see is trying to win games, not cover, right? Much like their game against Kansas City, they went for broke. They're playing the Chiefs. You can't not take chances. You punt a lot, you're going to lose. They're the Chiefs. So we like that decision making, and we think that cultivates a better chance of winning. That being said, I think I kind of like the Jets here, and I like the money line too as a dog. I think Zach Wilson's going to be a higher variance quarterback. He's got a really high OU for interceptions, which, that's bad, but that lends itself to that risk-taking behavior. So I think if I had a choice between the spread and the money line, I'm way more likely to take the money line. And also, too, there's this weird value point that I don't really like. Is like 5 isn't a key number. Like I'd rather 4.5 with better juice, right? So it's just one of those weird things. Or 6 at least has a better push frequency. 5 is just if you scroll down, it's so unlikely for them to lose by 5, right? So I don't really need that safety net. So I'd rather the money line with a high variance quarterback, and we don't know that with Zach Wilson. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna take the Jets with the points in the contest, and in real life, I'm thinking about Jets money line.
On to the next game, Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Buffalo 6.5-point favorites at home. 61% of early bettors are on the Bills.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking the Steelers. This is another one where it's a good news, bad news. I think in my local poker games, there's a lot of chatter about the Bills, which is really good news for me, meaning that I'm going to be bearish on the Bulls rather than bullish. And the Steelers, there's been a lot of negative press since that's such an ugly playoff win that's just going to stick with everyone. And just think about how the perception, right? The Steelers won 10, 11 in a row, Big Rye, and then they just, they won maybe 1 or 2 games, maybe more after that. I think 1 with the playoff loss to the Cleveland Browns. So of all teams, Cleveland, amazing. The sports are amazing. So I kind of like, it's one of those things where I think the Steelers people are a bit bearish on them. And the Bills, they have a lot of positive connotation, especially when you have such a great quarterback, one of the strongest players in the NFL, and it's inarguable. Josh Allen's unbelievable. So I think I also think he masks a lot of the team's deficiencies. So I don't mind gambling against a good performance on a good player, especially with a solid team. The Steelers are no slouches. Let's be real here. So I just think a lot of people are a little bullish on the a little bullish on the Bills and a little bit bearish on the Steelers. And I'm not sure it can beat the juice, but I do kind of like this middling spot here. 6.5 is a weird number. I'd rather gamble to get the half point for a push on 7. So I might try and sneak a Steelers bet if I can get 7 at good juice. 7 minus 107 is about the price I would really, really like on the Steelers. We're going to see how that shakes out. And then it's one of those things, you always have to set these prices and then reconvene. So in the contest, Steelers plus 6.5. Betting going forward, I'm just going to monitor the line. Closing lines are hard to beat, but I might end up betting this one.
And just to show the juxtaposition about these two quarterbacks and these two teams and how the public is kind of viewing them, is Josh Allen's 10-1 for MVP, Roethlisberger 47-1 for MVP. So
interesting.
There's quite the gap there between those two. I'm not saying that Roethlisberger's as good as Josh Allen is right now. That's definitely not the case. But it's just showing you that there's a vast difference in the public opinion between these two. Next up, Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals 3.5-point underdogs at home. 32% of early bettors are on the Bengals. Fat Guy, who you got?
One I like. Not that the Vikings are popular, but the Bengals certainly aren't. And the Joe Burrow, I think they can use the injury excuse thing. So I think his stock has gone down as far as perception goes. 3.5 points, that's my favorite number, that half. The hook as they call it, but I'm not buying it. I'm getting it at market price, assuming I can get the Bengals at minus 106 in that nature, right? So I'll be taking them in real life, the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'll be taking them in the contest. So not too much to reiterate. We don't really like going through rosters and that type of stuff. Just perception and math. If we can simplify it down, even though we've gone long this video already. Bengals in the points.
And interesting to note that Burrow 34-1 for MVP, whereas Kirk Cousins 56-1. So it's interesting that the Minnesota Vikings are a much better team that is set up for success, but Joe Burrow has the better MVP odds. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, who are 3.5-point favorites at home. 48% of early bettors are on the Falcons. Fat Guy, who you got?
Battle of the rookie coaches. Is it Sirianni versus Arthur Smith of the Tennessee Titans? So I'm going to be taking the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they might be the most underrated team. It's not that I think that they're good. It's that the statistics that we use favor it that way. Like last year, we have a proprietary statistic that measures sharp action in terms of perceived sharp action. Like there could be a whale that's creating this, but dollars bet per team, the discrepancy is highest on the Eagles. So that tells me they're underrated. I thought they performed well. They passed the eye test, which I hate using because your eyes lie to you more than anything else. Maybe your emotions, and then your eyes and your emotions are a dangerous thing. 3.5 points. I just said it's my favorite one. I don't know how I couldn't take the Eagles in this spot. And they also have negative. They're the least likely to win the division, which I feel is a little bit tighter than anything too. So I think there is some upside to the quarterback as well, considering that he wasn't exactly heralded, I guess, last year. Just kind of got thrown in. The Gardner Minshew pickup was a little bit interesting too. So that does put a little bit of doubt in my head. But that being said, this is all kind of handicappy stuff, and the numbers and the analytics tell us that the perception of the Eagles is low. Bad news is good news. Give me the Eagles. Give me the 3.5 points.
And something else interesting, you can see here that the bet percentages are pretty close, but the money percentages are almost identical. So this is a line that there's quite a consensus on both sides that this line is pretty much going to stay at 3.5, barring any major news. On to the next game, we have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions, who are 7.5-point underdogs at home. 25% of early bettors on the Lions. Fat Guy, who is betting the Lions?
Us. I think we nailed it. Good thing, yeah, he's got it right. Bad news is good news. How are people, even fans, betting the Lions?
I can't stand them. I think the head coach hire was terrible, and I'm going to be here betting the Lions probably every week.
Every week, because the number you're going to get, because you're not the only one. The whole point is that's the shared sentiment. It doesn't look good. I'm not willing to make that type of leap of faith like Big Rye has. I'm not confident. Let's put it that way. I hate betting on really bad teams, and I hate betting on or against really good teams. I like the middle part, But I'm going to be taking the Lions 7.5 points. I'm probably going to be singing the blues, but it is what it is. 7.5 points. It's a good number at home, and the perception against the bad news is good news. Perception against the Lions is horrible. So give me the 7.5 points against a really strong San Francisco roster.
It's tough to take a bad coach over a good coach.
Yes,
and in this case, the early perception is that Dan Campbell is not going to be a strong coach, at least from a personal bias.
Yes.
From a personal bias. On to the next game. Cleveland Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs, the public's 5-star game. Just taking a look now. There is quite a few bets on this compared to some of the other games. So I'm guessing that this one's going to be taking a lot more bets than some of the other ones, which means the market plays should be stronger because of the higher amount of bets. After all that said, Cleveland Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 6.5-point favorites at home. 65% of bettors are on the, I guess, the league darling Kansas City Chiefs.
Well,
but the Browns have pretty good news as well. So this is going to be an interesting game, and a game I'm sure a lot of people have circled on their calendars for 5-star entertainment.
Great scheduling, except why isn't this Sunday Night Football? This is the rematch of the playoffs. The Browns put respect on their name in that game. People liked it. I think this is the game people are probably looking most forward to. It's so weird talking about the Browns that way. I know I should have went full Browns regalia for the first game, but it is what it is. Obviously I'm probably going to take the Raiders, spoiler alert, but it is what it is. 6.5 points. I'll be taking the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if I'm betting this one. I think the Browns have a deeper roster, but quarterback talent just supersedes so much, and clearly we have a mismatch there. Not that I really, really care about handicapping a game, but this is the truth of it. The public loves the Kansas City Chiefs, so I'm just going to be betting against them probably all year. So give me the Browns, give me the points, and I want to be a fan. I want to watch this. I am looking forward to this game, and I want to see the Brownies at work.
Next up, Broncos Giants. Giants 2.5-point dogs at home. 37% of early bettors are on the Giants. This looks like an easy Giants market play, fat guy. What do you think?
Yeah, there you go. He's getting good at this. 5 years in, he figures out how to do a setup. Well, we're going to go double secret contrarian, much like Dean Wormer from Animal House, and we'll be taking the Denver Broncos. We're going to lay the 2.5 points. This is purely on handicap speculation. Usually we're contrarians, and we do like the Giants in these spots, but we feel that this is too good of an opportunity for the Denver Broncos. A lot of negative camp news out of the Giants. We are reading into this. We just like how we have bias on the Broncos as far as how a team's built. They've looked at their defense. You could make cases for a weak front seven. It's a strong secondary. It really, really is. Because you can probably play press man and lock up the box, probably limiting the Giants' offense. And again, I despise handicapping stuff, but this is the game. This is the one, right? And we just like Denver. 2.5 is a number that I love. If I'm laying points, I want to lay 2.5. Like, that's the number. It just is, right? So we're going to take Denver Broncos. We're going to lay the points on the road.
Next up is Green Bay at New Orleans, but this game I believe is being played in Florida. And Green Bay is 4.5-point favorites as the pseudo road team. 75% of early bettors are on the Packers. Fat guy, who you got?
Bad news, good news. So the Saints losing Drew Brees, that's got to take away a little bit of the public sentiment. I actually like the New Orleans Saints to bet them on the money line to win. When we spoke about Ryan Fitzpatrick, Zach Wilson, Zach Wilson, I'm getting speculating just from interception odds and what have you, and his player profile, but most assuredly Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston. I think with Winston and perhaps a sprinkle of Taysom Hill, you're kind of built to lose big, win big, and I think this is a good spot for a dog at a good price. So I'm going to be taking the Saints in the contest at plus 4.5. In real life, I'm probably going to take them against the money line. I think the Saints are more likely to lose big or win relatively small. Obviously, the Packers are the favorites, and they deserve to be. Negative news around Aaron Rodgers, but he is playing, so how negative could that be? I think there's more negative sentiment behind the player coach Drew Brees retiring. So the torch has been passed to a high variance quarterback, and I'm willing to invest in that high variance quarterback by betting in on the money line. I would even alternate line -2.5 on the Saints if I could. Wonder what odd set that would be. If anyone wants to look it up, post it in the comment section. That might be something interesting to debate. I like the Saints here, and at a good odd set, I like them to win.
And something I'll add is 25% of bets, but 45% of the dollars wagered are on the Saints.
Action.
Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins traveling to New England to take on the Pats in Foxborough. 62% of bettors, the line is Pats -3. 61% of bettors are on the Pats. Fat Guy, who you got?
Yeah, we're going to take the New England Patriots. This is purely a contest pick. This is another game, like I'd mentioned with Arizona, Tennessee. 3's right. Simulated a million times, and you have to lay 11 to 10. I think both sides are losing. So I'd love to add more candor to it, but I'm going to be taking the Patriots here, even though it's not contrarian. I'm not actually betting. So, but it's when in doubt, take the points. But I just have a lean towards the Patriots here. This is week 1 here. We're not into the beat the closing line shtick that you're going to see a lot this year. So purely a contest pick. Patriots -3.
Sunday Night Football, Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. Rams 7.5-point favorites at home. 84% of early bets are on the Rams. Fat Guy, the only reason I can think this is the Sunday Night Football game is because of the new stadium.
Yeah, I mean that's an argument. It's just, I don't know. Could you have made it Monday? You know, that's the way I think. Browns Chiefs. Sorry, NFL. That's you get a B. But I'm going to be taking the Chicago Bears. I mean, it feels so deflating, betting Andy Dalton. I mean, they've talked about it, but it's not. I don't believe it's cemented. We all are pretty confident that the other guy should be starting, but the contest pick wise, 7.5. I'd much prefer Fields to play because Andy Dalton isn't. He's got a lukewarm performance, right? It's like bad to average, right? I want a higher ceiling, and I'm doing a lot of quarterback handicapping here, which I didn't think I'd do initially, but it's because we're not going to do the closing line spiel that you're going to see. You're going to learn a lot about overnight lines, betting early, and the importance of that. Even though we've harped on it in past years, it's going to be more prevalent in our videos going forward. That being said, this is just an easy contest pick. Bears at 7.5.
And on to Monday Night Football, where the Baltimore Ravens travel to Vegas to take on the Raiders at their stadium. 4.5-point underdogs for the Raiders, 28% of bets. Fat Guy, who you got?
How could I not take the Raiders with the hat on, right? That's got to dictate everything. There is some injury and virus-related stuff with the Baltimore Ravens, so that's interesting. I'm considering it right now at 4.5 just because there is some uncertainty too, and I don't mind even a full strength Ravens at Las Vegas with Vegas getting 4.5 points. I don't mind that. This is one of the ones where I want the points rather than the money line bet. Like I'd saying, I think the Raiders are they're less likely to have those type of polarizing performances. I'd like to see the Raiders have a good year this year. They haven't really been up to snuff with the current management and coaching, but it is what it is. I'm really interested in this game as a fan. I can take the Raiders plus the 4.5 points.
All right, Fat Guy, on to the lightning round. Dallas at Tampa.
Cowboys.
Arizona at Tennessee.
Cardinals.
Seattle at Indy.
The Colts.
Chargers versus the football team.
Football team.
Jacksonville traveling to Houston.
The lowly Texans.
Jets Panthers.
Jets for the win. Joe
Steelers.
Namath said it first.
I just want to kiss you. Steelers Bills.
Steelers.
Vikings Bengals.
The Bengals.
Philly Atlanta.
Philadelphia Eagles.
San Fran at Detroit.
The kneecap biting Lions.
Cleveland Kansas City.
The Cleveland Browns.
Denver at the New York Giants.
Appeal to my heart. The old man Vic Fangio and the Denver Broncos.
Green Bay, New Orleans on a neutral field.
Nolans to win.
Miami at New England.
A chalk pick, the Patriots.
Bears at the Rams.
Please no Andy Dalton Bears.
Baltimore at the Las Vegas Raiders for Monday Night Football.
I wore the hat.
All right, make your picks against the spread for week 1 at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. Fat Guy, you want to explain the prize this year?
Yeah, we're gonna be giving out $100 USD prize in Bitcoin. We got to switch that medium. The T-shirt thing, it's a lot of stuff gets lost in translation, and shipping becomes difficult from Canada to the U.S. Most of our view base is in the U.S. We're in Canada, so the T-shirt thing it's tough to pull off because stuff goes missing and I end up paying twice. I don't quite like that. I don't mind shelling out for this one. Set up a Bitcoin wallet. This is a good way to promote it. On the most micro of levels. And crypto is really easy to send, and it can be confirmed on my end. So I'll be sending Bitcoin, $100 USD, to the winner of the yearly contest, and then we'll do something for the playoffs as well. So this is another good reason. It's free. Just enter every week. Even if you have a bad week, what's the worst that you can do is, is lose. You're already losing. So go for broke. Try and win, and I'm hoping someone breaks 60% for the first prize. I'd be happy to hand over those $100 and ask for some tips too.
Fat Guy, that is it. That's the NFL picks against the spread video for Week 1. Are you looking forward to the NFL season this year?
Oh, unbelievably, yeah. This is it just felt empty without football this time, right? And I've been enjoying tennis. I got to be honest here, and. That's a sad state of affairs, right? So I think I'm ready.
Good luck for your Week 1 picks.